Can you stop? What is this? My hair is going to be so big by the time you're done. Okay, that's fine. Good morning, Reptilians. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. I'm Elle, this is Az, and this is Elle's Reptiles. This week we are doing a video that will hopefully help someone if you are getting into reptiles, or if you're about to get multiple reptiles. This video is going to be all about things that I wish I knew before getting multiple reptiles, or just before getting reptiles in general. This one's pretty self-explanatory, so let's dive right in. Before we get started, this video is sponsored by Love Skinks Rescue. I'm super excited to have them back as a sponsor. Make sure to stay until the end of the video because they are doing a giveaway that we need to talk about. Let's get started. The very first one is underestimating the cost. Having one reptile can be pretty inexpensive. Obviously, you have the startup cost and the setup cost and all of that, but overall, having one reptile is pretty inexpensive. Having multiple reptiles can get pretty pricey pretty quickly. This is one that's like, well, of course. But this one is on the list because I personally didn't think that much into it. I knew obviously there would be another tank setup. I knew obviously there was going to be more food needed. However, I didn't really think about the fact that light bulbs were going to go out, heat pads were going to go out, thermostats were going to go out, bedding in a lot of tanks would need to be changed, and we won't even talk about multiple vet visits for multiple different pets because that is the one that adds up so quickly. Just all of those little things that you don't really think of necessarily when you start getting more reptiles, and that is super important to know. But on that same note, on that same subject, I also wish that I knew some of the money-saving tips that I know now back then. These are things like pre-made substrate mixes are going to be a lot more expensive than homemade substrate mixes if you have multiple tanks. And of course, reptile food, buying reptile food in bulk, like online or your local pet store, especially local pet stores. Local pet stores usually sell feeders for a lot cheaper than chain pet stores. This is something that I didn't have to deal with as much because Zaz is the first reptile that I had in this house, and I got her from a local pet store, so I was getting her feeders from there too pretty much immediately. But that was a bit of a drive, so the moment I went to a chain pet store and tried to buy food for her there, I saw just how much of a difference that price tag made and immediately started buying online. So if you are not buying your food in bulk online or from local pet stores, maybe try to do that. And another money-saving tip, just 3 really quick ones. Another money-saving tip is just gathering driftwood from local sources if you can, if it is legal to do that wherever you are. Gathering that driftwood yourself and baking it or sanitizing it in some way is a lot cheaper, it's free, than trying to buy driftwood at pet stores. Next up is temperature gun. A temperature gun makes my life so much easier. I wish that I had this. This doesn't even apply just to having multiple reptiles, just reptiles in general. Having a temperature gun makes life so much easier because I can just go around and just shoot all the different tanks, make sure all the temperatures look like they're good, and it takes 30 seconds, and it's one temperature gun as opposed to trying to make sure that temperature probes are all hooked up and they're all secured correctly and they're all working correctly and there's batteries in all of them. Having a temperature gun makes life so much easier, and it makes you feel better knowing that your animal's basking spot is correct. Please don't go on my head. No, we're not doing that. It also makes life so much easier if you are needing to bathe those reptiles, if they're having shedding issues, or you just need to bathe them to use the bathroom, or whatever it is that you're doing. You're able to just zap the water with the temperature gun and see what the temperature is looking like in the water to make sure that it is safe for your animal. This next one is relatively new for me because I was so against it for so long just because it is expensive, and that is a UVB meter. It says, I thought we were going to be friends. What are you doing? UVB meters are so helpful when you have a lot of tanks, and even if you just have one tank and you can put out the money for a UVB meter, they make life easier because now, instead of having to remember to replace lights every 6 months to a year, depending on what kind of light you have, you can just read the UVB output. You also can make sure that the basking spots or hanging out spots of your animals, there's the appropriate amount of UVB there for them, because distances between your animal and the UVB light obviously make a huge difference in UVB output. I wish that I had got one so much sooner. I literally just got this a few months ago. This next one I found out pretty quickly, but I still wish that I knew about it sooner, and that is that reptile shows exist. This one, if you've been on this channel for any amount of time, you know that they exist. But if you're just finding this video, maybe you don't know that they exist. Reptile shows are amazing. Reptile shows allow you to interact with breeders and ask questions. If you're looking for a specific animal, ask questions to those breeders. If you have specific questions about the animal, they allow you to have a look at all the different morphs and be able to look at that animal that you're about to get, like check out their personality. They also are an amazing place to just be introduced to reptiles that you didn't know existed, reptiles that you've never seen in real life. Plus, it's an entire expo of people who like the thing that you like, so that makes it super cool too. Next up is a mistake that I personally made, and it didn't have any negative effects for me personally, but it could have. And that is using ivy in an animal's tank. So first and foremost, ivy is dangerous for your animal if they ingest it. So if your animal eats any kind of greens, any kind of vegetables, definitely do not have ivy in that tank. It will make them sick. If your animal eats bugs and the bugs eat that ivy and then your animal eats that bugs, it could potentially make them sick. Better to be safe than sorry. But whenever I got the ivy for Goliath's tank here a few years ago, she didn't eat bugs. She doesn't eat vegetables. So I was like, oh, so it's fine and everything's gonna be okay. But once I started keeping plants and I actually started learning about the specific plants, that should probably be in there too. Know about the plants that you're using before throwing them in a bioactive tank. I used to have an ivy that sat right here. It doesn't anymore because it got spider mites and died. And I learned that spider mites are very, very common with ivy. If that was a situation in this tank and it was infested with spider mites, all of the other plants in that tank probably also would have died. Don't use ivy in those tanks. Parasite testing when you bring your animal home for the first time. This is something that I talk about often. I learned the hard way from this mistake very early on in reptile keeping. Some animals are going to have parasites when you bring them home. Definitely wish I knew this before, because if you've been on the channel for a while, you know that I lost a fire skink very quickly after getting her because she was so badly infested with parasites. That is a lesson that I have learned, and it is something that I would definitely tell any new reptile keeper. Overwatering my plants. Again, I got into bioactive tanks before I actually started keeping plants, so I didn't understand how detrimental overwatering plants is to the plant, and I killed a lot of plants in bioactive tanks this way. Your soil needs to dry out between waterings. Me thinking that plants just needed water until I started watching plant YouTube videos. I would just spray down tanks and then I would just dump water into the tanks and they would die, and I didn't understand why. And in my head I was like, oh no, they need more water, so I would just pour more water in there. Do not overwater your plants. I'm obviously not saying not to mist your tanks. Misting your tanks is fine. I'm talking about constant wet soil sitting on roots causes root rot, which kills your plants. Animals slow down during the winter. This is something that I wish I knew immediately going into reptiles, because when Zaz got older and she started going into brumation, it terrified me. My leopard gecko started going into brumation, terrified me. It still stresses me out some, I'm not gonna lie. It still stresses me out when it's wintertime and they're not eating and I'm just like, oh no, I hope you're not losing weight. It's still pretty stressful. I just wish that I knew this sooner, so maybe a tad bit of the stress could be taken off. All reptiles can brumate. All reptiles, to my knowledge, all of them can potentially slow down during the winter. If it is super cold where you live, if it is wintertime, doesn't matter what reptile you have, if they kind of slow down on eating or they stop eating, as long as they're not losing weight or acting super weird, super out of the norm, they're just eating less and hiding a bit more, then it's probably completely normal. They're probably just brumating. Don't stress. And the last one is on the list just because I think it's funny. When you start to get reptiles, your friends or your family or random strangers at the vet might think that you're a little weird, and that is okay. I feel like I have always come off a little weird, and it's fun. Just know that you might interact with people who let you know that they think it's weird that you have reptiles. Taking them to the vet, if you take your animal to a vet that also has other vets, most people that come in are gonna have dogs and cats and stuff. There's a possibility that there's gonna be someone in the waiting room that's like, what's in that box? And you're just like, it's a snake. And they're just like, oh no, please keep it away. That has happened to me several times. You should like what you like. I like reptiles, and that's fine. But that is all that I have for this video. What was something that you learned after getting reptiles that you didn't think of or that was shocking to you? Let me know down in the comments below. As I said at the beginning of this video is sponsored by Love Skinks Rescue. Love Skinks Rescue has been a sponsor on the channel before. They are fantastic. Just a quick rundown about them. They are a reptile rescue that specializes in Skinks. They are able to take in those animals, care for them if they need medical attention or they need rehabilitating, anything like that, and there is absolutely zero judgment. They are now taking in rescues. So if you are in a situation where you need to surrender a skink, consider Love Skinks Rescue because they're fantastic. They are currently accepting donations on their Patreon. The money obviously goes to helping the animals. They also now sell Zen habitats directly on their websites, and all the proceeds from that, and of course the shirts and all the merch that they have, also go directly to helping the animals. So in celebration of the weather being better and them now being able to accept those shipments of animals again, we thought it would be super fun and super cool to do a giveaway. So this giveaway is on Instagram, and it is going to be for 2 winners. All you have to do is go over there, follow their Instagram, which is here, and just comment on the giveaway post and you are entered. That's all you gotta do. The winners will each win that exclusive Love Skinks Elle's Reptiles t-shirt, and they'll win holographic stickers. Also, following them on Instagram is awesome anyway because they post a whole bunch of pictures and videos of their skinks. It's fantastic. Make sure to check them out and definitely go enter that giveaway if you have an Instagram. Thank you so much to Love Skinks Rescue for sponsoring this video and this awesome giveaway. As always, if you have not already, please feel free to follow me on my socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every single time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday and some Wednesdays. This week's Instagram shout out is here, and this week's subscriber shout out is here. Thank you guys both so much for liking and following and subscribing and sharing and all of that jazz. You are the bee's knees. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye. All right, is it recording audio? It's so hot. Why did I wear this hoodie? Why am I wearing a sweatshirt? 4-foot tank. And so if thank you, Zaz, so if at all possible, the situation they were in before you got them, whether it was because of the weather, but ooh, I did not know what that was on my face. Huh. Kind of creepy. Bulk online or buying from so buying in Parasite Tested. I feel like this is a very long-winded one. I feel like I've been talking for a while. I'm so sorry. What are you doing? Don't eat my hair, please. We're doing something important.